8 o'clock on the dot. I'm not playing with y'all. Money Mondays. Time is money. We doing it different today. I'm excited. Let's see if we can get H on the live. So just to let you guys know, um, hello Ricky, how are you? This is Money Mondays, and usually I would host this with Mercedes, but she is not going to be on this live because we have a guest today, Mathman H from HA Homes. He is my mentor in real estate, and I'm excited about this live. So I'm about to get him on the live right now for you guys. Right now, I gotta find him first. Oh Lord. All right. All right. Let me see how you request. Because we about to get into the nitty gritty of this stuff. Wait, H, try to request a live. Hold on. There we go. Already make sure y'all got your pens, y'all papers out, and ask all the questions. What's
Cool.
up, H?
What's going on, though?
How are you?
Chilling.
I'm
Getting ready for this conversation.
excited. Yes, you
All
got
right.
on the Lazy Money shirt. I should have had on the hoodie. Where's that?
Yeah, yeah, I'll
So
let
let's get right into it. So just for the people who don't know who you are, can you just give like a little brief introduction to who is Mathman H?
Sure, Math Man H. I'm a retired public city school teacher. I taught math and other subjects for 14 years, primarily math. I trained teachers around New York City in Common Core math. I did staff developments. While I was dealing with education and whatnot, I started investing in real estate. My first rental property I purchased at 22 or 23, and now 15 years later, I'm able to retire, pretty much do what I want, and I still educate people on how to invest and how to become financially independent.
Okay, cool. So I know a lot of people, when I tell people about my journey with you, it's a lot of eyes, and I don't know why they get like flags or whatever, red flags that is this a legit thing? What exactly is it? So explain what is HA Homes and what is your process of getting into real estate and how you do it.
Okay, basically, HA Home started because I had to protect my assets. So a lot of times people hear the term LLC and they don't really understand what an LLC is. So LLC means limited liability corporation. All that means is you create a different entity so that everything that is under that umbrella becomes its own separate thing. So let's say I was a teacher. So I had a pension, or I have a pension, I have money in the bank, I have my own personal house, my own personal things. If one of my tenants was to sue me, they could sue me for all my personal belongings. So by putting things in the LLC, they can only sue that LLC. So HA Homes started as Hussein Abdullah's Homes just because I really wasn't that creative. My lawyer said, create a name. I said, yeah, put it under that. And that's what it was. But it's grown to consulting, property management, flipping houses, wholesaling, and just a slew of other things that fall under the umbrella of investing, especially in terms of real estate. What's going on, Julian? Thanks for tuning in. One of my partners, Julian, he's one of the people that helps us buy and sell houses and that kind of thing.
Hey,
And
Julian.
thank you for tuning in.
So, okay. I just want to talk about like our relationship just so people can know where this came from. So it's a really crazy story. It's random, but I randomly came across H on a podcast. I forgot what the podcast was, Black Hollywood, I think, or
Something like
I don't even know. But
FR,
anyway,
shout out to FR. Yeah,
yeah, something like that.
yeah.
And then I hit him up because I was interested in what he was talking about. That's how it originally started. And then I don't know, like the vibe, the chemistry, just we just hit it off the back. Like, and I'm like, you know what? I'm about to interview. I want to interview. So we ended up doing the interview. And from there we started talking about doing the tour for Philly. And H made it happen. We went on the tour. It was about four or five of us that went on the tour. And when we went on the tour, he basically took us around to see how he flips properties, like how he, finds the properties, how he fixes the properties, the whole process. It was lit. It was a really fun day. And then from there, literally the next month, I invested my first set of money inside. So can you just explain to people like how that worked when you invest money and how to become a property investor? Because that's actually how I started. I became a property investor before I became a landlord.
Right. So basically, a question that people have all the time is, how much money does it take to invest? And the simple answer is anything, right? Any money that you put into an event or an endeavor that makes you money back is an investment, right? So the simple answer is it could be a penny or it could be $1. Like you could buy a cryptocurrency for a penny, right? So there's no minimum amount of money that you need to invest. The question I think most people want to know is, how much money does it take to become a landlord? Now, with HA Homes, our minimum investment is $1,000. Now, $1,000 is not going to make you a landlord. However, 15, 12, 10,000 can make you a landlord. So one of the things that we do is we crowdfund, and let's say, Peace, Migs Tats just joined. So I'm going to use Migs Tats for example. So Migs Tats has $1,000. Nova has $1,000. Mark Unknown Knowing joined. Thanks for joining in. He has $1,000. Aaliyah just joined. Thank you for joining. She has $1,000, and 6 other people have $1,000.
By the way, we're all investors.
Right. So now you guys have $1,000 each. What my company does is it pools that 10,000, and we go ahead and we purchase a property. The rent profit from that goes to each individual investor. It's the same premise as a hedge fund. So if you ever heard of really millionaire, billionaire hedge fund people, hedge fund kids, that's all a hedge fund does, is it takes lump sums of money and it invests it in different projects or different pieces of real estate. So that's how Nova started. She started out with a small amount of money, or she started out with the minimum, and then she built up. And now she has enough money by just putting in a tax return or two. And now, in a week, she's about to close on her first property. She already has it rented. It's already been renovated. She's seen it, and she's going to do a video on that. So you'll see how fast it was for her to own and become a landlord.
And like I said, this happened last year, March. We went on the tour. In April, I invested my first set of money. And when I tell you, I didn't know how I was going to get the rest of my money, but I got creative and I got the money. Okay. So when you always put up in a corner to find money, trust me, you will find the money. Like, don't use no excuse that you don't know where to get the money, you don't know how to get the money. You will find that money when you need that money. So I invested the money, and look, I'm a landlord, literally. And if you think about it in a way, this is sort of like a family banking system, which actually drawn me to it, because instead of going to an actual bank, we're keeping it within the circle. So I don't know.
All right. So we have our first question. So we're just gonna see how this goes. We wanted to kind of do Q&A for most of this, but Tones on the Blunt, thank you for tuning in. He said
that's a girl.
Sorry, miss. Can we get your own people, or you guys choose randomly? No, Les, thanks for joining in. So here goes the answer to your question for Tone, right? Let's say you have 5 friends, and each one of y'all have $2,000 each, and you guys want to join as a collective. You guys can buy that property. You don't need me, so you won't get the fixed rate. So what happens is, oh, now you're welcome, of course. I read it like 5 times before I said it out loud, right? So what happens is, let's say you started by yourself, and you said, I have $2,000. $2,000, I can't really do so much for $2,000. So I'm going to give you a fixed return. It might be 2 or 3%, way better than a larger bank. And we are a bank, because a bank just means a storage or something, right? Like a food bank. So we are a bank because we hold your money, but we also invest it. So now what happens is, I can only give you 2% on $2,000 because I can't buy a house of $2,000. You know, that's minimal. But you and your friends can combine your money and say, we want to put down 20% on a house. And I can say, this is the house for you. It's going to bring you back 30% on your money. You should invest in this house. You guys will create an LLC. You will pool your money. and then I would pay your LLC, and you would be a landlord. And basically, that's how it works. And if it's kind of shaky, I'll reiterate it again. I'm sure we have a lot of time left, so I'm sure people might have similar questions.
So until somebody else asks a question, with this current era that we're in right now, this recession, because we are in a recession, believe it or not. And I know a lot of people are kind of on the fence about investing. Some people are into investing around this time, and a lot of people are on the fence about investing at this time, especially with the quarantine. So what do you suggest? Do you think that this is the right time to invest, or this is the wrong time to invest, or there's never a right or wrong time?
I think it's always a good time to invest. See, what people don't understand is people don't really know how money works. Money likes money. Money's attracted to money. And money is meant to circulate. So what happens is if your money is sitting in a bank or sitting under your couch or sitting on a shelf or going directly to your bills, your money is not working for you. That's what this whole thing is, right? That's what the lazy money thing is. Lazy money is money that's not working for you. So if your money is just sitting somewhere, it's not doing what it really wants to do. Money wants to be out there. So whether it's cryptocurrency, whether it's Forex, whether it's your own business, whether it's real estate, whatever it is, you should always be investing your money because your money needs to circulate. And based on how compound, after a while, it just starts to make money on its own, and then it goes on autopilot, and then you kind of have a position where you could walk away from full benefits, you could walk away from a pension, you could walk away from a six-figure salary, still live the same lifestyle and better because you've put in the work. And that's basically what you should do. Your money should always be moving. If your money is dormant, you're not using your money right.
Mm-hmm. She asks, all investments require 20%.
So when you're purchasing an investment property, the minimum amount that you can put down and speak to a bank is 20%. So if we're buying a house, $100,000 house, a lot of people are like, oh, you can get a house for $3,000, meaning like an FHA loan, because it's 3%. You could move into that house with 3%, but you can't rent it out. So there's a rule called the expedition rule, which means if you were to buy a house and you went to a bank and they gave you a loan as if you were moving in, and then they found out that you were renting it, there's a clause that they could put in that says, oh, you broke the rules, you got to give us all our money in 30 days or we take your house. So on investment property, the minimum investment that you have to put down in terms of a formal mortgage is 20%. Private lenders, it could be 20, 25, 30%. But for a single family, a duplex, a quadplex, anything under six, the minimum deposit is 20%. And that's what we do. We leverage everything. I'll leverage in a little bit later. And mixed people losing money if they're sitting in the bank right now. Absolutely. Inflation is 3% annually. So what that means is if you have $10,000 in the bank and you let it sit in there for a year, the cost of living is going to increase 3%. So that means you just lost 3% of your money. So that means if you set $10,000 in a bank for 10 years and you weren't gaining interest on it, you just lost 3% of your money. So now your 10,000 in 10 years is worth 7,000. You just lost 3,000. So my company is giving you a minimum interest rate, so at least you're kind of keeping pace. But the goal is not to save with me. What I save with me, because obviously you can't save by yourself. And it may sound funny with me saying it like that, but think like this. How many people on here, like let's get some hearts on here. How many people on here have been working more than 10 years? Let's see what
happens. I can't heart it. I don't know how to heart.
If people will be honest with it, but most people have been working more than 10 years. Most people make more than $20,000 or $30,000 a year, right? Or we'll assume it, right? So if you made even just $10,000 and you work 10 years, you should have $100,000 in the bank. Okay, but then there's bills. Okay, fine. But at some point you had a luxury item, right? You went on a trip, you got a new car, you bought some new sneakers, you bought your boyfriend a gift, you bought your girlfriend a gift, you bought jewelry, you bought alcohol, you went to a club. You wasted that money. So obviously you need help saving. This year ended, last year ended, you still got the same money in the bank, you need help. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I'm saying? Like by sending your money to somebody else and you're not allowed to have access to it, it kind of forces you to move forward because and I'm so close to my property. Like I feel like maybe I won't speak for you, but maybe that was kind of like part of Nova's motivation. She was right there, at least from my
Yeah. For me, when I had my tax, because that's how I started with the tax refund first, and I had blew out like half of it on credit card. Because remember last week I talked to you guys about with investing and spending your tax return on paying off your credit cards, which doesn't make any sense, which I learned from my mentor who is on the line right now. So I ended up spending half of it, which I actually could have just invested all of it and probably would have got through much faster if I did, now looking back at it. But I was insisting like, no, I want this debt. I don't want this debt no more. But because I invested that $1,000, I was able to forget about it, and it actually worked for me because I spent that. Well, I didn't spend it, but I put it in the savings where I didn't have to touch it. I didn't see it. It was out of mind, out of sight, and in the long run, it worked out for me. Right. So that's why I'm like, tax season is around. You're getting your stimulus check. Like, think about what you can actually do with that and where it can lead you within a year. Because I am proof that it can happen within a year.
Right. And the video's coming out. We'll have the video coming out soon. So, Mom Bosspreneur, thank you for joining. Julian has a comment. I'm gonna respond to Julian's comment, I think, right now. So a lot of times people say, well, I have outstanding credit card debt, and I get it. But let's talk about your credit card debt. 14%, 12%, maybe you have a bad credit card, it's 19%. All right, fine. So by spending that money, you're saving 19%, 17%, 12% interest. Now, that's in the short term, right? Hey, Sadie's, what's going on? So that's in the short term. But you got to look at it over the long term, right? It's a marathon, right? Not a sprint. So what happens is by giving away that $1,000, you now take that $1,000 out of the equation. 20% interest on $1,000 is like what? $200 at the end of a year. Now, if you invest that and you're investing it in a real estate venture where you get 40, 50, 60% profit, now you're making 40% more. So what happens is your interest rate becomes free. You still make extra money. You have the added benefit of the write-offs, all these other things that I teach my clients. So what happens is at some point you're going to get rid of the debt, but now you still have somebody paying you rent. You still have instant equity. I won't speak to Nova's property. I'll wait for that. But for example, I have a client who just closed on a house. They closed for $62,500, and their property appraised for $87,000. So what that means is, as soon as they bought it, they made $25,000. If they wanted to,
you could tell them, because the people who's tuned in is actual people who took the time out of their time to actually come and learn. So I'm open to sharing with you guys on my journey. Just make sure you watch the video and like and subscribe and share it.
Yeah, we'll get to the subscribes and the liking. So basically, this is how it works out. Nova's property is gonna appraise for $80,000, right? She purchased it for $65,000. Now she's closing in a week. When that closing comes, she literally just made $15,000. Julian could take it, put it right back on the market for $75,000. It has brand new floors, brand new appliances, everything is new. She'll get $75,000. She'll make $10,000 in one day. Most people don't see $10,000 in 3 or 4 months. And she gets back all of her original investment, right? Plus all the money that she made as a landlord until the time that she sells it. Mm-hmm. Based on what we know right now, her profit is, I think, 35, 40%. What that means is in 2 years, maybe 28 months, she's going to double her money. And that's not including write-offs. That's not including late fees. It's not including rent increases, because let's say something breaks. So we'll offset that. I don't know too many people that's making 40% on their money. I don't. Plus the added bonus of the equity that she has instantly, right? So that extra 15, she could also go to the bank after 6 months and say, well, I have, 25, 30 equity. Pull out 30 equity from that and go buy 2 more houses. And now she's the owner of 3 properties. And all she put in was her initial investment. So in another year, she'll own 3 houses and be making, I'll let her tell you however much rent, that much rent off of her initial investment. And then that makes her income, or rather her ROI, return on investment, spike, where she'd be making 100, 200% on her money. And because money makes money. It's just, you got to just give it time. You got to water it. And that's what it is. So,
let me like throw this out, because I know there's this, I don't want to say a stereotype, but there's this thought process, which I feel like is another kind of generational curse kind of thing that I feel like we need to break, where a lot of our parents feel like, especially in New York, oh, let me buy a property and I'm gonna rent out the basement. How do you feel about those kind of rental process? Do you think those are smart investments?
well, here goes the thing. I think everybody has a different temperament, right? Some people have a really hard time investing and being absentee. A lot of people may not feel comfortable with being in New York and investing in a place like Texas, investing in a place like Philadelphia, investing in a place like Florida, because there's not a place where they can actually get their hands on it. So, like, I don't judge, but what I know, I started out as a landlord in New York. Anybody from New York knows it's the worst place to be a landlord. It's an extremely tenant friendly city. Like, it's the best place to live. Like, I love New York. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm Brooklyn all day. But what I'm saying, as far as being a landlord, there's a few things you gotta remember, right? So the first thing is taking somebody to court. Forget about it. It takes months to get into court, and then there's delays and delays and delays. And that's why you always hear those horror stories of it takes 2 or 3 years to evict somebody. That means you're not getting any money for 2 or 3 years. And then what happens when you go to court, because I've been to court in New York, is, let's say a tenant owes you 10,000, and they legitimately they didn't pay you rent for 10 months, and their rent was 1,000. I know that's not real New York rent, but I'm just making a point, right? The judge is not going to give you $10,000. They're just not going to give you $10,000. They're going to say, well, meet somewhere in the middle and you guys work it out. If not, we got to reconvene and you got to come back in another 3 months. So now you lose another 3,000 trying to save three. So what happens is New York is really rough. So I'd never tell anybody to invest in New York. The second problem with New York is the property is so overvalued. So I'm going to throw out numbers. They might go over your head. You might need to stop this, watch the live again, write them down, whatever, record what I'm saying. But I'll give you realistic numbers in New York. And if you're from New York, you know these numbers are real. Let's say you wanted to move into Brooklyn and you wanted to be a landlord and you bought a 2-bedroom condo. A 2-bedroom condo in a decent area, it's $500,000. I just told you got to put down 20%. 20% of $500,000 is $100,000. You got closing costs, you have inspections, and then you have taxes, right? So easily $130,000. They're gonna put up $130,000 to buy a 2-bedroom condo. A 2-bedroom condo has HOA fees. For people who don't know what HOA fees, homeowners association dues. That pays for everything outside of your apartment. That's the lawn maintenance. That's the pointing of the bricks. That's making sure the concrete is good, right? Your maintenance outside of your actual apartment. That's $300 or $400 easily. Your rent's $2,800. Okay, so now we break it down to $2,400. You got to pay taxes on that. So now break that down again. That's $2,100. You have, let's say you walk away with $2,100. Oh, I'm making $2,100. I'm living good, $2,100. But you invested $125,000. So that means your return on investment is like 1.5%. You can get
That's
one.
just got a condo in New York City,
and nobody's breaking anything and tearing up anything in your house. You get 1.5% anyway. A bad deal for us here in Texas or in Philly is 25%. So what happens with people in New York is they hear the number. Like, I'm gonna make $2,500 rent. Hell yeah! But they're not looking at what the offset is, right? So all we look at is, oh, and thank you, mixed tax. That was the other number. The actual mortgage, because if you put down 100,000, you're borrowing 400,000. So now you got to pay that mortgage on 400,000. The mortgage on 400,000 on a business loan is about 5%. You're looking at another $2,000. So let's go back to the original 2,800. 2,800 minus 2,000 for your mortgage, minus 400 for your
walking away with nothing.
for the HOA, and then anything else that comes up. So you're gonna invest 125,000 to make $400 a month. 400 times 12, 4,800. So you're right there, right back at 2%. It's terrible. It's a terrible, terrible investment to try to become a small landlord in New York. A bigger landlord, that's something else. But even for bigger landlords, 80%, like get that in your head, 80% of New York City rentals are subsidized. Think about New York projects, Mitchell-Lamas. If you don't know what a Mitchell-Lama is, that's a form of a project. That's like when you work for the city, you get that discounted co-op. If you pay the money cash, you wait on the list. And then you have any building over 6 units, which is everything in New York. You have that fixed rental income, right? So that's how somebody lives in their grandmother's apartment and they're paying $400 because their grandmother lived there for 40 years. But then a new person moves next door and they're paying $3,500, but you can't evict the person because they stayed on the lease. So you know what I'm saying? Like you have that rental stability situation that they have out there. So it's terrible to rent in a place like New York. In Texas, we get evictions done in 30 days. So you don't lose any money. You know what I'm saying? Not that that's our goal, but I'm just making a point as I sold all my properties in New York and I bought a ton of property in Texas. While I sold all my property in New York and I bought in a place like Pennsylvania. And also Texas has no state tax.
So how do you feel about living with your tenant? Do you think that's a good idea to do? Like,
I wouldn't do it because, like, what happens if your tenant has an argument with their significant other? What happens if your tenant smokes and you don't smoke? What happens when their music is too loud? Like, it becomes such a headache. There's certain things you don't want to see. It's like I'm a parent. I know you're a parent. Like when your son gets a little older, like my daughter's a teen. When your kids get a little older, like you don't want to see your teenager with like a boyfriend or a girlfriend. You may know it, but you don't want to see it every day. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't want to see them drive a car when they first get their license. You're nervous, like, oh my God, they're gonna. So I could not watch somebody every day in my property. Like that would drive me crazy. Oh, why are you closing the door so hard? Like, oh, do you need to? Oh.
Why are you walking so hard?
Yeah, like so. But you know, that's some people can know. And I'm saying that buying a duplex to have somebody pay off your bills is a bad idea. It's not what I'm saying. The question you asked was, could I do it? And no, I couldn't do it. And yes, Sadie's, I agree that you do need the separation. Megs, I agree. Hell no. Yeah,
hell no.
Very, very hard to live next door to somebody who has to pay. And also, if they know that you're the landlord, you're getting that knock on the door at 2 a.m. You're getting that knock at 10 o'clock. You're getting like there's no separation in church and state. And that's one of the reasons why I like to tell people that they should get a property manager. You should have distance because sometimes you have to make hard decisions. And when you see like kids grow up or something like that, oh man, I don't want to put them out on the street. But then as a business person, you have to look at your family. Like my sole income comes from my investments. So if I have people not paying me rent, that means my daughter doesn't get to eat because you have a hard situation. Like I have a heart, but you know, then we have to figure that out. I can't just let it go because I feel bad for you, because then there's a trickle down effect. Like I still have a mortgage, I still have bills. My family, I put a lot of people on so that and their families don't get to eat. My construction workers, my day laborers, like my people who do my lawns, like I have so many people I pay. So if you don't want to pay your rent, it hurts that whole economy.
Tones asks, do you help people if they have a property they want to buy?
Yeah, that's what I did with Nova. And if there's something that you have something specific, like let's say you find a gem of a property and the numbers work, I mean, we'll buy it and we'll give you a finder's fee if that's your question. But if there's something that you're scouting right now, send me a DM and, you know, we'll talk about it. I'll help. One of the things I do as a consultant is I help you do your ROI, right? Your return on investment. I show you whether it's worthy of investing in or not. And for me, I don't touch anything for my clients less than 20%. What that means is you're going to get your money back net, not gross, net. After taxes, after everything, you're going to double your money in 5 years or less. So nothing less than 20% for me. Some people are good with 8%. 8% is a good investment. For me, on real estate, nothing less than 20.
And what is your take on wholesaling? Do you think wholesaling is a good thing if someone wants to get the capital to invest with you?
All right, wholesaling, I don't wholesaling and investing is two different things. So what a wholesaler does is a wholesaler goes out, like let's say Nova, you're selling your house.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, no, I'm saying like, do you think it's a good option for someone to do or start off with wholesaling to build the capital or to get the capital to invest in?
no,
So
but
they
what
can...
is when you're saying wholesaling, you might be thinking of it, maybe you mean crowdfunding. Wholesale.
Okay, so when I'm saying wholesaling, the wholesaling process with the contract and finding
That's not.
the...
So let me explain
Okay,
wholesaling.
so explain wholesaling, yeah.
Wholesaling is Nova. You have a house for sale, or,
Mm-hmm.
or you don't have a house for sale. You right now, God forbid, somebody in your family passed, and you don't want to maintain their bills. So now you're a motivated seller. That house is worth 100. You don't care because everything is profit to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I come to you and say, Nova, that house is for. I'll give you 60,000 right now. I'll get you 60,000, and you're like, cool. I'll take 60, like whatever. And I go and I sell it to somebody else for 80. So now how I win is I get my client a better price than they could find. And you win because you get more money than you really cared about. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times those houses that are wholesale, like your house, I got off a wholesale deal. The person found a motivated person. I gave them a finder's fee for finding that. I paid my contractors to invest in the house. And then we sold it to you. You saved, I think, 20% off the purchase price, and you made your investment. So you made and saved money. I made and saved money. The wholesaler made and saved money. My contractors made and saved. And the person who walked away, oh, we don't know them, so we could put it out there. I think they walked away with $23,000.
Okay.
So to them,
Well, I think that's how I was trying to explain it, but I think the word, like the contract, is what I thought that the contract went. I don't know how to explain it, but from my understanding of wholesale was the contract. Basically, you are buying the contract, and when you buy the contract, then you're trying to find a person to sell the contract to.
yeah, that's what wholesaling is. But
Right.
it doesn't take any money. Wholesalers don't spend money.
No, 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 no. That's what I'm saying. So that money that you get from that deal, what you made, that's what I'm saying. You can use that as capital to invest or to start up, to put money with you so they can start the process.
Oh
If
yeah.
they don't have any money, that's what I was saying. Do you think
Oh,
it's a good idea for someone to start off that way?
yeah, but no, wholesaling is very hard to do. I mean, listen, anybody who wants to spend the time to find motivated buyers and bring them my way, you're more than welcome to do that. I don't spend my day personally trying to find deals. People know that we're willing to buy and that I have clients and we have whatever and we buy because wholesaling is like finding a needle, and that is it's an art. It's not something that somebody can just get me. You know what? I'm gonna go find 10 houses right now that somebody's willing to sell half price to me, so I can go find clients to the. You gotta kind of know people.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people who try to wholesale, and I told them like, you're more than welcome to do it, but I think a better way of going about it is taking your energy and putting it towards a passion, and then putting money to your side, and that's where we talk about it. Are working on our budgets and really working our budgets. I always compare finance and fitness.